Okay, we're going to look at some clips, both good and bad, of the press coverage technique that Torian Gray, the defensive backs coach of Virginia Tech, talked about in a full-length special report on the Bear package. Okay, we're taking a few looks here at Ohio State. And the decision was made based on the game plan this week. Coach Bud Foster felt like he could play man coverage against Ohio State. He packed the box, as you're going to see here. He's playing with a six-man box with a free safety, okay, essentially being a cover zero player. And it's a decision you make, and he lived with it, and they did a pretty good job. Intercepted Ohio State 3 times, okay, this game to win the game. Only loss of Ohio State all season. So some good clips and bad clips here we'll take a look at. The first thing we're taking a look at up top, Coach Gray talked about 3 main techniques. He talked about the Revis technique. Again, this is all in the report, the Revis technique, about more of a square-shouldered punch technique for the corner. He talked about a staggered technique with the punch, and he also talked about a jam technique if that receiver was on the line of scrimmage. Okay, so we're looking up top here. Pretty good technique. Receiver flips his hips at the right time. Loses phase in here, but he's able to make up the ground. Okay, it's a tough throw to make for the quarterback. One thing Coach Gray talked to us about specifically, okay, is being able to win the first 5 yards. He was big on that, staying on top of the receiver with the first 5 yards. Very important coaching point for him, okay, to make sure that you're winning the first 5 yards of the route. Okay, you see, pretty good job here. Again, staying in phase. This corner up here, staying on top. The benefit, the downside of if you're playing this type of coverage, you're going to get nickels, okay, running with number 2, depending on who that slot receiver is. But you see this slot receiver is able to get some separation on that nickel. And Coach Gray talked about not panicking, okay, covering the ground. Once that receiver's out of phase, got to put his head down and run with it, okay. The ball has to wait a little bit here. But it's a pretty good completion and a good throw. So, it's both good and bad here as we go through these clips. Okay, so this is a good example of a jam technique. On the bottom here, you have the receiver. Okay, he's able to, even though the receiver is off the line, okay, you have 2 pretty much jam techniques. The whole idea and the whole concept is staying square with it. Okay, moving the feet first, staying patient, moving the feet first. Notice the corner up top in the boundary, and that's Virginia Tech's dog. The boundary corner, the Macho Harris, the D'Angelo Halls of that scheme over the years. They've been pretty successful there in the boundary corner. The patience there, okay, moving the feet first, not engaging with the hands. Pretty good coverage all around here, and that's what you want. You're playing with a cheap post player, so he sees pass, he's a deep safety. Okay, these players are locked on, playing with confidence, and so much coaches, as you know, of playing this technique and press coverage is playing with confidence, and that's really what it's about. Okay, now we're going to see an example of some off technique here. And Coach Gray, we asked Torian Gray, the defensive backs coach, what he wanted, and he would mix it up. You see there's a 2nd and 6. Okay, up here you can tell by the sticks it's 2nd down. All right, so that's something a decision has to be made. Bear package is usually a 1st and 2nd down defense. Okay, but you see right now, this player is giving a little too much ground. That's the nickel playing number 2. His shoulders are not squared. He's giving up an inside route. He needs to close on that hip a little bit faster. Now, when this occurs, you see number 1, the number 1 receiver, okay, runs a quick lookie or a quick slant here. The biggest coaching point is right now making the tackle, and we discussed this play specifically with Coach Gray, and Coach Gray was okay with the coverage, okay, provided he gets the player on the ground. You got to live to play another down, so you give a 1st down. But this obviously, cannot happen with a missed tackle and a score. So I wanted to show you this because this is the kind of risk that you play with this coverage, okay. But you got to teach those players how to tackle in space, and Virginia Tech does a great job of that over the years. So they've been pretty successful teaching that. Okay, so you're going to see a Revis technique up top here, or Revis technique up top here. Okay, this player's in the slot. Okay, most of these players, it's a square technique. Footwork square, shoulders square. Okay, you see moving the feet first. moving the feet first, making sure there's space, keeping that bubble. Okay, all three defensive backs do a great job staying in phase. You got 3 vertical routes. Okay, they're all staying on top. They've won the first 5 yards. You have a true free safety here. So they're in good shape. This is East Carolina. Okay, again, square shoulder. This player's on the line. This player's off the line of scrimmage. Okay, this player's on the line of scrimmage. We'll just take a look at the corner on the bottom. Again, just finding a way to squeeze that player to the sideline. Okay, the player looks. There's not much of a window there to throw the football. And that's essentially what you want. All right, this is a pretty good example of a jam technique when the receiver's on the line. And, I mean, again, you got to talk about high risk, high reward. The guts to call this coverage. I mean, they're in press man here. The ball's on the -2 yard line, okay, for Virginia, who has the football. But it's a pretty good example of press technique here. Okay, now he does let him up inside. Now, one thing that Coach Gray did talk to us about is the presence of the deep safety. Sometimes those corners are not going to know, those nickels in the slots are not going to know if they have deep safety help. Okay, because Virginia Tech will do different things with a cheap post player. Okay, so he may, he's triggering on the run game. Okay, if it's pass game, he's going to be the deep safety. But you can see right now, okay, letting him inside. There is a presence of a post player. He may not be at the right depth, but that receiver has maintained inside leverage here. It's a great job up top of staying in phase and running with that receiver. Okay, this is Cincinnati. They're playing off technique. This is a good example of the stagger technique. Okay, so now the feet are not squared. It's a stagger technique. It's still the same punch technique. They're playing off. All right, again, depending on who you play, Virginia Tech felt they matched up better with Cincinnati receivers than they did with Ohio State, so they would play that off technique and that stagger. But you see, cornerback does a great job here, catching the ball at its highest point, getting his hips around. And he's going to go up and get the ball here. So I know this is not a technique or fundamental presentation, but we did want to show you some good cut-ups and clips of press technique here in the Bear package. Thanks for tuning in, coaches.